customer with taste. Utterly timeless. Remarkable. Ever at your service.
used to anyway. would be that easy. You think you've won? This is just the beginning!
What will it be? What will it be? Anything breaks, the forge is hot. Anything breaks, the forge is hot. Father bless. What do you need? Father bless. What do you need?
would be that easy. You think you've won? This is just the beginning!
What is the last thing that you remember?
I saw something on the ship. It's been 2 years since the fall of the mothership. And the end of the invasion.
We survived, found each other.
You're worried about something. Just talk to me. I need to know what's going on. I need to know if it's happening again.
Whatever happened before, it's just the beginning.
We've been assembling an elite team of soldiers to cross through the dead zone. You're coming with us. You know more about the aliens than anybody.
There's a reason we keep surviving. We was meant to finish this together.
Victory requires sacrifice.
You can communicate with them. You're a part of something so much bigger.
What I saw is new, more powerful, and they're not done.
There's a worldwide war out there.
We promise to keep trying for each other.
All this time, all I wanted to do was destroy them. Maybe humanity's time is over. Maybe it's their turn. Humanity's time is over. The world keeps spinning. The world keeps spinning.
Marcus V. Yep. All right. Yeah. Looking sharp. Marcus V. Yep. All right. Yeah. Looking sharp.
There's a brand new, totally free, open source LLM that's built for coders, and I've been waiting for this one, Qwen 3 Coder. But it's 480 billion parameters, and you're gonna need a big chonker to run this 510 gigabyte model. Hold on, before you misunderstand, I mean you're gonna need a lot of VRAM to be able to run it. Either unifying memory on Apple Silicon, or a bunch of discrete GPUs altogether, aka a data center. But they were nice enough to also release Qwen 3 Coder 30 billion Flash. And this is the one that we'll be able to run at home. But for those with even the top of the line consumer GPU, the RTX 5090, there's a slight issue. The 5090 has 32 gigabytes of VRAM. 32! And this model in Q8 is 32.48. Just barely not fitting in there. Oh, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Q8 is the quantization level. Quantization is how much the model is shrunk down in order to fit in video cards like this. So this one is not gonna fit by half a gigabyte. We're gonna test that out right now. And Q4, it means it's shrunk down even more, is 18.63 gigabytes, which is just outside the range of the 16 gigabytes that the 5060s and the 5070s have, and the 5080s. So you might need to drop down to the previous generation 4090, which has 24 gigs of VRAM, in order to be able to run the 4-bit quantized version. But believe it or not, this little box right here has 64 gigs of unified memory, and it can run both of those quantization levels. 3 of these will fit into my 5090, and of course, the M3 Ultra will be able to do that as well. Here's Qwen 2.5 14 billion, which is the previous version, which is 14.62 gigabytes, and we're gonna run this on the 5060 that I have here. Offloading all the layers, let's go. For some reason, this is still not fitting quite nicely, and we're seeing a lot of CPU action happening here. 13 gigabytes out of the 16 available are being used on that GPU, and we're only at 43% utilization, which is not really great. We're getting 11 tokens per second there. However, the new model, Qwen 3, has better utilization. More than 2 times the number of parameters. It's not that much bigger, and check this out, it's faster. Even though we're not using the GPU to its fullest, and we're not fully loading that model onto the 5060 because it only has 16 gigabytes, we're still using the CPU, but look at this, we're getting 30 tokens per second there. That means this model is way more efficient. You're going to be able to run more parameters faster across all the hardware, even if you have to use some of the CPU. You want to have your model fully in the GPU so it's the fastest. You don't want any CPU spillover because then it's going to slow things down. And we're about to see that. So now I'm going to switch over to the 5090, which has 32 gigs of VRAM, and I'm going to load up the Q8 version of this model. And that's just a little bit too big to fit in 32 gigs. Why couldn't they make it just a little bit smaller, you know, instead of a little bit bigger, so that it fits completely in 32 gigs? It'll be nice and neat, but no. It's still going pretty decently fast. 24% utilization. We're loading only 26 out of 32 gigabytes of VRAM. The rest is being offloaded to the CPU, unfortunately, giving us 31 tokens per second. So these days, I'm constantly flipping between models. GPT-4o for notes and email, Claude for code refactors, Flux for image generation, Kling for video, 4 tabs, 4 bills, and counting. Enter Chat LLM Teams. There's one dashboard that houses every top LLM, and Route LLM picks the right one for you for a given task. O4 Mini High for fast answers, Claude Sonnet 3.7 for coding, Gemini 2.5 Pro for big context, and even adds GPT 4.1 before ChatGPT has it. Chat with PDFs and PowerPoints, then generate decks and docs and do deep research all in the same chat. Need human-sounding copy? The Humanize toggle rewrites text to beat AI detectors. Spin up agents and run code with AI Engineer. I built my first bot in just minutes. Track artifacts, create GitHub pull requests, and debug from the same interface. Need visuals? No problem. Use Flux or Ideogram and Recraft for images, Kling, Luma, and Runway for video, all built in. And the kicker is just $10 a month, less than one premium model. Head over to chatllm.abacus.ai or click the link in the description and level up with Chat LLM Teams. What about this little guy? This is the M4 Pro Mac Mini, and it's got 64 gigs of unified memory. most of that can be used by the GPU. All right, here on top I've got the Mac Mini. On the bottom I've got the Windows machine. Let's load up that 4-bit model. By the way, this is the MLX quantization because MLX is a little bit more performant on Apple Silicon. It's designed for it. Boom. And there it goes. That is going pretty fast. Does that look faster than the other ones? I don't know. Let's find out. We're gonna stop at 75 tokens per second, which is faster than the 5060 for sure, but it's also the 4-bit quant that's faster than the 8-bit quant running on the RTX 5090. I know it's a little confusing. I've got charts coming up, don't worry. Here's the 8-bit version. Let's try that on the Mac Mini. So this one, of course, should be a little bit slower, and it is. 52 tokens per second. Here's the 8-bit version. Let's try that on the Mac Mini. So this one, of course, should be a little bit slower, and it is. 52 tokens per second. Second. 52 tokens per second is a lot faster than 31 tokens per second. So if you're dealing with an 8-bit quant of this model, this runs way faster on an Apple Silicon Mac Mini than it does on the RTX 5090 because of that CPU spillover when you're running it on the 5090. That's crazy. Of course, I've got the M4 Max and the M3 Ultra. Both of those are going to be even faster than that. But what about Windows and Linux people? Well, what can they do to improve their lives here since they were hurt so badly by these model sizes? Well, they can always get two. So let's say you have like a 5080 or a 5060 or a 5070, and those have 16 gigabytes each. You can add another GPU and extend that. But in order to be able to run the full 30 billion parameter model at 8-bit, you're gonna need that 5090 with 32 gigs and another card. So I've got one of the lower ones here. I've got a 5060 Ti with 16 gigs. Together they have 48. Now, first of all, you're going to need to get a motherboard that can support 2 GPUs, and then you're going to need to run software that can support that. LM Studio is able to do that, and I can control what goes where through the hardware tab. I can turn on and off each one of these GPUs. I can have them both on. Now remember that 31 tokens per second, that's the number to beat, and I'll select that 8-bit quantization. 8 bits is going to supposedly give us better results than 4 bits. However, the quality testing is something to be done in a separate video. This video is just for speed testing only. And let's go. Okay, it's looking pretty decent. I like the speed. Both the GPUs are working. It's getting warmer. Let's take a look at what speed we're getting here. We're getting 50. So we're getting closer to what that Mac Mini can do, but we're still under it in tokens per second, even using both of these GPUs. There's one more setting we can change. There's this split evenly setting. And what that does is, let me show you. Here's the two GPUs right there. It's trying to balance out the amount of VRAM it's using from each GPU. It's using 21 out of 32 gigabytes from the 5090, 32% utilization. And it's using 10 out of 16 gigabytes on the 5060 with 32% utilization as well. So what's happening there is it's splitting the model, but we know that the 5090 has a lot more memory bandwidth than the 5060. So what we really want to do is load up that 5090 to the max before we spill over to the 5060. And you can do that in LM Studio. And we've got both the GPUs selected, but instead of split evenly, we want to do priority order, 1 and 2. And we want to make sure that the 5090 is listed first. You can move these around, but the 5090 should be first because it has more bandwidth and it has more memory. So let's use that to the max. Write out Java function to find prime numbers up to n. Boom. There we go. But is this fast enough? Let's stop that. 49 tokens per second. That's not great. For some reason, even though there's enough RAM here, enough VRAM, since we have to do a little bit of copying back and forth, that's taking a hit on the performance. Now that's the 8-bit version. Let's take a look at the 4-bit version. This should be a lot faster. And yeah, wow, look at that difference. We're seeing a lot of utilization on that 5090, almost no utilization on the 5060. Everything is pretty much running and fitting inside that 5090, so there's no need to share the GPUs at all. So what we're seeing here is really from the 5090. 157 tokens per second on this one. That is a huge difference. Now, a lot of you are interested in not just a little short prompt, so I had to automate this whole process because it was going to take forever. It already took forever because some of these scripts that I wrote, I had to run overnight. I ran them over and over and over again, and I wanted to shove a bunch of different prompts. So here are some examples. Extra long programming code heavy prompt, which is 17,000 tokens. This would be an example of a really large context window, and I had to enlarge the context window of this model to 50,000. This model supports a huge context window, but of course when you do that, you're increasing the memory footprint that's required as well. And you're gonna see a little bit of a slowdown from what you've seen in the UI, what I just demonstrated. This one is 17,000. Here is one using repo prompt, which is a tool I've showed before on the channel. Really nice tool, check it out. This allows you to basically create a mapping of your entire project or parts of the project and include that as part of the context. So this one is 44,000 tokens. And then we got some smaller token size prompts like long architecture enterprise prompt, non-programming analysis prompt. These are long prompts. These are over 1,000 tokens each. And then I did some medium prompts, which are prompts that you would probably enter yourself in the range of 100 tokens or so. And then we got some really short prompts like design a microservices architecture, short debug prompt, fix and debug this little function right here, simple greeting, hi. By the way, I have to apologize. I've been using a lot of hi in my previous videos, and after doing this analysis, it's not a good prompt at all. And I'll show you why. Sorry to all those folks that had to deal with me saying hi. I won't do it again. Well, maybe I will. I don't know. Anyway, I shoved all these prompts one at a time, 5 times each. Here's what one of the results looks like. The long architecture prompt is on the left. The shortest ones are on the right. This little line right here, that's the variability. You want that to be as small as possible. So even after running that high prompt, the short simple greeting prompt 5 times, no matter how many times I ran it actually on all the different platforms, different models, I get a really huge variability, so it's not a very good one. These are used not through the UI, but through its REST endpoint. LM Studio exposes a REST endpoint where you can query it using an OpenAI style API, which is most likely how you'd be using it if you were to use this in a code editor, for example, or with something like Qwen Code, which is a terminal-based, agent-based application. So this is what 8-bit looks like using this setup with the RTX 5090 and 5060. There is a little bit of a difference between the long prompts and the medium prompts. Notice that the very short prompts have really poor performance speed-wise. The fastest one was this short programming prompt. And the system completely failed when it came to the 17,000 token prompt and the 44,000 token prompt. Now let's take a look at this. This is the 4-bit version. Here we're running pretty much on the 5090, even though both cards were involved in this. And we're getting really good speeds of 163 tokens per second. On all these, we're doing really well. Here's the M4 Pro. this little Mac Mini here. And we're doing pretty well here. Over 80 tokens per second on some of these. And here are the extra long prompts. These are the prompts that the RTX cards weren't even able to process. But the little box could. Not very fast. 10 tokens per second there. That's the 44,000 token prompt. It still did it, which is pretty cool. And then 25 tokens per second for the 17,000 token prompt. M4 Max, even faster. 25 tokens per second for the 44,000 token prompt, and up to 110 tokens per second for the medium programming prompt. But you know what surprised me the most? The M3 Ultra didn't do as well as the M4 Max. Here's the 4-bit result with all of them combined. Of course, with 4 bits, the RTX 5090 just destroys it. So if you're okay with that quant, that's the fastest result you're gonna get. M4 Pro, M4 Max, and M3 Ultra are all down here. And let's take the fastest result, which is that M4 Max. And compared to the M3 Ultra, we're quite a bit off here. The M3 Ultra is consistently slower for this particular model than the M4 Max, which is kind of odd. Except for these really long prompts, the M3 Ultra is a little bit faster there, which is kind of interesting. But the M4 Pro and the M4 Max relation is kind of what I would expect. Now, if we take a look at the 8-bit version of this, whoa, still kind of the same with the M4 Max and the M3 Ultra. The M3 Ultra actually does better with 8-bit, and the M4 Pro seems to do a little bit worse. But what's really worse is that RTX-based machine, the NVIDIA machines. First of all, it didn't run the extra long prompts at all. And second, it took a huge hit from having to share that memory and go through system memory while it was copying back and forth and combining the results from the two cards. This definitely probably would have been better on that RTX Pro 6000. That is a very expensive card, and if you want to know more about that card, check out this video over here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Finished, are you?
Decent steel, unique. Better than starting from nothing.
Finished, are you?
spirit. Give it a go. Hello, oh, Vasily. Hello, shame that. Hello, well, there's something special.
We've been investigating the NVIDIA GPU black market in China for the last 3 weeks, and this is our biggest story yet, and also, I may or may not have been detained for an extended period of time for questioning at customs by one of the two governments involved in relation to getting this story, but I've been advised not to talk about that today. Also, we might upset NVIDIA. Again. So this story is pretty crazy because we found and spoke to smugglers, middlemen, and users of so-called AI GPUs, which have been banned by the United States government for sale into China. And in a world first, we got several of these people involved in the chain of fueling this black market of GPUs to go on camera and talk about either selling them or using the cards. As recently as a day ago, the US government arrested 2 Chinese nationals for smuggling GPUs past US borders for export into China to be sold on the black market. We're making a full-length movie about all of this, and we need your help. In this story, we spent 2 weeks traveling over 2,300 miles, or 3,700 kilometers, inside China to talk to those in the know. We then spent a week in Taiwan to find intermediary companies. We worked with this guy in Huizhou, known as Mr. 5. And we asked him this question. 你觉得 NVIDIA 知道？
这个是当然知道的，但是就是它是怎么说呢？睁一只眼闭一只眼。
This is like you turn a blind eye.
This was the exact same idiomatic proverb given by 2 other middlemen in Shenzhen.
Do you think NVIDIA knows? Do they try to stop it?
就是它是这样。 可能就像睁一只眼闭一只眼。
They agreed to let us record the conversation, but said we couldn't show their faces.
可以，就是
just can't show their face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And our company name.
In Hong Kong, we visited Dr. Vinci Chao's hand-built server at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, a user and purchaser of GPUs which are now export controlled.
I mean, but it's supposed to be banned, right?
Yes.
But you can just buy it retail in a store.
As I said, it's not illegal to buy them.
Right. But I guess what surprised me is how easy it is to buy them.
With the right price.
We met with a dealer of smuggled GPUs in Huaqiangbei who told us just how easy it is to get these supposedly banned GPUs in China by walking us across the street to introduce us to his suppliers.
市场很多啊，就是帅哥就很多了。
Does he need to make any trips to SEG to buy stuff that we could potentially go with him for? You know what I mean? Like if he has any need to go to Saigo to buy stuff, would he be interested in us following him to accompany him?
Yeah.
If you could find a soft way to present that, I guess.
His cousin made tea and told us about the integrated circuit supply business, which fuels memory modules to people like this guy, Brother John.
你在这里有48 GB 的4090吗？
我们可以现做。
They can make one right now.
Okay.
对，我们可以现做的。
Okay. Hey, cool.
Brother John takes defective NVIDIA PCBs and extracts the GPU while adding new memory modules to create high VRAM capacity GPUs like 4090s and possibly soon 5090s that not only aren't supposed to be sold to China according to the US, but aren't even official SKUs from NVIDIA, and they're in high demand for AI servers.
So what did he say? Sometimes people buy like 10 or 20 at a time or something?
He gets a 10 or 20 orders at a time. Yeah, for AI.
Yeah.
Running like running models or.
We were also guided around Dongguan by a guy who called himself the Chinese Eminem. We then realized the best way to understand how GPUs get in and how this black market works would be to buy a GPU which was smuggled into China. So we wired thousands of dollars.
Steven.
Yes.
Is this Steven?
Yeah, how's it going?
Oh my god. Alright, you ready? I'll help you here.
Yeah, so I've got $3,289 going out.
Perfect.
And they're banked.
You'll find out if that worked in the full-length movie we're making. For this story, no more anonymous sources say bullshit that you see in all the big publications. We spent months finding people to go on record and on camera. So, this story is special, but to finish the story, we need your help. We're launching our own version of a Kickstarter that we've linked below to help fund our production budget. This movie has a release date, August 15th, so it's coming out in just a week. To make this as good as we can, we want to pull all resources to focus on only this. This will help fund our existing research, travel, staff, and production costs, thus far totaling about $100,000 now, most of which has been months and months of time across multiple team members researching, finding leads, and training for this trip. Our backer rewards include exclusive benefits like additional footage and bonus videos only for backer tiers, a very small group live stream Q&A sessions with me where you can ask about the project, our testing, or even job-seeking advice in the industry if you want, and more, like behind-the-scenes videos with the production and research teams for this unique story. All of these tiers are named in a way that's themed around smuggling, and so the highest tier here is the Kingpin, which includes Kingpin KPX thermal paste. That's right, I contacted the actual Kingpin to provide Kingpin thermal paste for our Kingpin backer tier. We're also launching this brand new Turn a Blind Eye t-shirt referencing the Chinese idiom that our contacts kept uttering when we asked if Nvidia was aware of the circumvention of export controls for sale of its GPUs into China.
睁一只眼闭一只眼。
The text is written in traditional Chinese characters. It's read top down, right to left, and it feels sort of like a skyline from Hong Kong, inspired by it. This is handmade art by Andrew on the team, showing one open and one closed eye with cyberpunk-style, Blade Runner-esque theming to fit the Hong Kong part of the trip. Our highest tier also includes a credit in the video if you bought on or before August 14th, and includes a watercolor painting of the Hong Kong city skyline on canvas that my mom actually painted based on one of the photos I took. We need your help more than ever to make this story a reality. Some of our stretch goals include publishing the most complete timeline of GPU bans on the internet so far, using our website and posting the article ad-free. Another includes publishing large parts of our research document as another article free of third-party ads, with another stretch goal eliminating any third-party direct ad sales from the movie itself to restrict the movie to only have GN store ads and, of course, the usual YouTube AdSense. Our research document for this investigation is already over 450 pages and has been collected over a period of 4 months now, making this our most expensive and extensive video yet, but also, we think, the most important. We want this to be the most comprehensive and interesting piece looking into this peculiar world where a black market now isn't just drugs and guns, but is also video cards that at one point could have been perceived for just gaming. We're launching the video on August 15th. It has a firm release date, and all that remains now is how much we can polish it and refine it. We're trying to hire drone pilots for additional shots. We're working on getting custom music made by Matt Heafy of Trivium fame and by Aaron Pauley from Of Mice and Men, among other tracks. And we're hoping to pause production of several other video projects so we can use the budget to fully focus on making this our best investigation yet. It's something that GN is uniquely capable of doing in this space, so we want to make sure it's good and provide something that you haven't seen before. The digital rewards are only included in the backer tiers, like the wallpapers and the bonus videos, all themed around GPU smuggling in the titling. Those are only available for a few weeks. Most of the physical items will remain available on the store after, or individually, if you'd like to spend less and still support us while just getting 1 or 2 items. The whole story is fascinating and took us all around Asia, and Nvidia has been incredibly sensitive about this subject. Months ago, there was a company talking about how GPUs were being smuggled in with lobsters. Nvidia responded defensively, stating that it'd be better if American companies would focus on innovation rather than making up tall tales about sensitive electronics with lobsters. And we looked into that too, but I gotta save some things for the video. It's interesting further that if you really think about it, a lot of the cards that are banned for sale into China by the US government, they're made in China. So they can make them, but technically the US says that the companies that have them made are not allowed to sell them to China, where they're made. And so we looked into that too, because it's always possible for a card to fall off the back of a truck on its way to a port or something, and that was something we were curious about. The GPU silicon isn't made there, that's made in Taiwan, but the assembly and the making of all the other parts, like the shrouds, the PCBs, most of the VRM components, that tends to be done in China. Most of that is in Huizhou and Shenzhen, which we went to. Speaking of Taiwan, we also hopped over there to spend time speaking to people in the GPU supply chain for the story. The whole story is just interesting because it's really bizarre and dystopian, and this sort of, it's like a future that we live in now, You'd see it in a movie or something where normally a black market is for drugs or guns or something that you'd think of as really bad in some capacity. So you're definitely not supposed to be able to get, but you can through these illicit means. And yet the people we spoke to as part of this story who are involved in GPU supply into China, where according to the US government, they're not supposed to be able to get a lot of these cards, the people we worked with referred to it as a black market for GPUs, or sometimes a gray market. And at the end of all of this, you have something where you just take a step back and look at it, and it's like, these are video cards that feasibly you could buy for playing video games, a lot of them, 4090s, 5090s. And yes, there's bands of Blackwell, B100, B200, H100, those to A100, the high-end AI GPUs or data center GPUs that wouldn't be for gaming, those are of course on the list too. But the fact remains that cards which we've reviewed and benchmarked in, I don't know, Final Fantasy are so valuable that they get smuggled into another country for sale. And of course, it's for things outside of gaming, but it could be gaming too. And when you look at it through that lens of, this is a thing that we all in our audience know from just a hobby of PC building, and it is so obscenely valuable outside of that hobby that people are willing to risk some kind of fines or potentially detainment or maybe even jail getting it out of places it's not supposed to get out of because it's so valuable, to then sell it somewhere it's not supposed to be sold. And that makes it fascinating to us. That's why we covered this. So it's a big adventure. Tannen went with me for this. He was the one on the camera and running the audio for that. So just for context, normally, as far as like how important and crazy this story was, someone on the camera team would go with me for that. But due to other scheduling conflicts and how kind of down to the last minute this came across the wire, they weren't able to go. Tannen is a writer. He writes content. He had zero experience using like a studio camera and audio gear before we went. And so Vitaly, Andrew, and Mike spent 4 weeks doing extensive training with Tannen to get him ready and prepped for this trip. And he went with me and we shot it all. He spent 3 weeks in the field with me for his first real project. And it came together great. We're really happy with it. So he killed it. The team killed it on training him. And now we're in the editing stages where myself and the rest of the team, we're getting it across the line to finalize it. Really crazy story, though, where the team is heavily involved here at all stages. I mean, on Tannen's side, he went from zero camera experience to having to do this trip and did well with it. Ben on the team is the one who put together hundreds of pages of research. He has, I think it's over like 140 hours in this project now, just researching and helping me figure out who do we talk to, where do we need to go when we're in China. On my side, I spent a lot of time studying Chinese so I could just use the right words having these conversations. Because, like, believe it or not, it never came up in my tutoring sessions how to say black market. And I really felt like I would have had to explain that if I had asked. So that's where I spent some of my time, in addition to the research and the planning and all that stuff, logistics. But we're excited about it. And in the meantime, to help us finalize things, please head over to our page and support our project. Tiers include new shirt designs like our Blind Eye t-shirt, our Blacklisted t-shirt that I was wearing in this video, and our GPU Paper launch shirt. We also have GPU backplate stickers and side panel stickers that we've designed, like this one that says Black Market in Chinese characters with a Nexus Smuggling Company label. We sized it to fit most modern GPU backplates and fit that sort of cyberpunk dystopian theme for your build. That's in addition to digital wallpapers, exclusive Q&A videos, and more. This video is pretty unique for GN. We've done a few of these now where, I don't know, if you think about our 3-hour Tariffs deep dive, we learned from that process and that format, and we're continuing to iterate on the format and apply it here. So that's what we're trying to do again, but keep improving on it. Really fun stuff. We're best known, I think, for the benchmarks and reviews out of the things that we do. But these are becoming more common. We are able to do that because of your support. This stuff's incredibly expensive, both in time and just actual cost. I mean, again, we spent 3 weeks out of the country to produce this. So, and again, we've got a firm launch date on that video, so it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of how much we can polish it and continue to refine it in these.
That looks worn. I can fix it.
what you get. Want to know?
Chin up, mate. All right. Oh, very